that is looking so pretty today. Purple and gold everywhere. Regal colors, royal colors that I'm very familiar with because in my hometown, they are the Mardi Gras colors along with Kelly green. So it's beautiful to me. It's a reminder. About a month ago, two ladies on the women's committee cornered me out here in the hallway after choir rehearsal and said, we want you to do us a favor. And I asked what it was. They said, Women's Day. I said, oh, you know, I was sick last year on Women's Day, so I really don't know anything about it. This will be my first Women's Day. They gave me the theme for the day and the colors and told me it was quite easy. They said, all you have to do is tell your story. I said, well, I can't tell my whole story because, well, and they did just what you did. They laughed and said, oh, we trust you. I tried again. I said, well, how do you know I'm a wise choice? They gave me a couple of looks that said, just quit it. They ended the conversation by saying, can we count on you to do this? Are you confirming that you will? I said, yes, and they went their way. But what they didn't know was how affirming God is. They didn't know that my last time at the AMBA in this capacity was on New Year's Eve at the watch service. So when I found out that there would be no watch service this year because of the day that the holiday falls on and other things, I had been praying and I asked the Lord, well, you want me to take another day? You think I should do this some other time? And I was just waiting for an answer. So to those who think they cornered me, I just brought God into the picture. That's how this came to be. So, you were listening very attentively to the readings, so I know that you know that today's readings challenge us at a very high level. The first reading from Wisdom tells us quite clearly that we must pursue wisdom. It does not show up at our door and ask permission to enter. Of course, wisdom is referred to as a female, and we don't have to ask why. I think it's for the same reason that God created Eve. But anyway, wisdom means we first have to acknowledge that we need help. And queens need all of the help they can get. That is the theme for today is Queen's Wisdom. Wisdom also refers to knowledge. Read, study, ask questions, pray, be still, and listen. Haven't you experienced a time when you were wondering what to do about a certain issue? You pondered all you could by yourself, but couldn't arrive at what you believe to be the correct choice? What to do next? You ask God. And your answer may come in the strangest, most unexpected way, but it will come. When I was a senior in college, my mother asked me what I was going to do after graduation. She asked me, as the theme song for the dance, I said it over and over and over again, every week. But I had no answer. I took the Federal Service entrance exam, passed the test, got job offers from the Secret Service and the CIA here in Washington, but it didn't seem right. You know what I mean? It just didn't seem right. It didn't call my name. Xavier had a pharmacy school, so we had a lot of recruiters from various drugstores every year. Recruiters also came from telephone companies, utilities, chemical laboratories, and graduate schools. One day, there was a man recruiting from what you might call a Bridge the Gap program. unable to do their best work in the undergraduate program. They had obligations pulling on them, jobs, families, parents, illnesses, many obstacles. I went to see him. He was very nice. He talked to me. At the end of the conversation, he said, "This program is not what you need." Well, I was a biology major with 8 years of library work experience, so trying to combine a love of books with science was not easy at that time. He also said, "If I still have anything that I think would interest you, I'll let you know." I walked out of that room not feeling any better than when I had entered. I did not give up hope, but I realized that I had not located the answer. I thought to myself that with all the students he interviewed, all the places and universities he went to, he was never going to remember me. Trust God. I kept doing what I was doing, and 2 weeks before graduation, the administrative secretary pulled me from class. She said I had to go to the dean of women's office right away. Can't tell you in church what I said to myself, but there in the dean's office, I found that my friend from the Bridge the Gap graduate school program had not forgotten me. Trust God. He had forwarded all the information about a new program about to train its first class at Case Western Reserve University's library school in, of all things, how to be a medical librarian, supporting doctors and nurses in schools and hospitals. I was awed and speechless. I had exactly 2 weeks to submit all the documents, references, transcripts, get accepted, get a plane ticket, pack, garner up some pocket money, and leave home for Cleveland, Ohio. The program was funded with federal funds from the U.S. Public Health Department. Each student would be granted full scholarship and a $200 a month stipend for living expenses. With the grace of God, it all got done. I landed at the Cleveland airport all alone with my blue trunk and 2 suitcases. No one to meet me, no family here. Got a taxi to the dorm where I was assigned for the first 6 weeks and moved in. There was so much about the program that I did not know when I arrived. For example, after the first 6 weeks, you had to find yourself a place to live. Hopefully on the stipend you were receiving. I had no car, so it had to be nearby. Again, grace. Grace alone. I secured a room in the nurses' residence on Euclid Avenue, next to the Allen Memorial Medical Library at the corner of Euclid and Adelbert. Trust God. After the first 6-week session, we had a break. I went to visit my siblings on the East Coast, and I returned either the first Sunday in September or on Labor Day itself, 1967. On the Thursday after Labor Day, I was walking down Euclid Avenue toward the old Marshall's drugstore on the corner of Cornell. Anybody remember that? There was a young man coming out of the drugstore with a coffee cup in his hand. He was cute enough and seemed approachable. He looked in my direction and hesitated, not crossing Euclid when he could, giving me a chance to reach him. We smiled. Found out he was on his way to an evening class. So I walked to class with him. We exchanged numbers, and that's how it all began. We married. He and his dad started a business on East 131st Street. I worked as a librarian for Case Western Reserve University in the Miller Science Center on Adelbert. It used to be across from Rainbow's entrance for about a year or so. Then I went down to the new Cleveland State University. I went there, the first black reference library with a particular dedication to the science department. But I must have been too challenging because the chief reference librarian wasted no time finding a reason to move me across the street to the old AAA building while the school, which the school had recently acquired. And there was a Nigerian lecturer, a brilliant man, who had been recruited, and a Black Studies program was being initiated. But the university library had no resources to support this new department. It was my job to develop a Black Studies collection for the state. I wanted to panic because history is one of my weakest suits. But I had to write in my new domain. Dear Queen, I reasoned with myself. I had studied collection development during my training. All I had to do was apply it to a different subject. And so I did. The Black students congregated in that room like 40 going north. It was great. They took care of me during my pregnancy. The bosses over in the main library never knew when I was on campus and when I wasn't. We lived above the funeral home during this time, and Holy Family Parish was across the street there. I joined there and developed a friendly relationship with Father George. My husband was Christian, not attending anywhere regularly, not really interested in doing that at that time. So I went along. You know, he was not always a heathen. On campus and also at St. Agnes on Euclid Avenue, but could find no place to connect for a very long time. But life moved on, and soon it was New Year's, 1988. Our business was thriving and quite busy during December. And by this time, we had a home away from the business, about 8 minutes away. Got a phone call that night from the lady who lived behind the business. There was a fire in the building. Smoke was pouring out of the side. My husband and sons rushed to the building. It was terrifying. Firefighters had broken most of the windows, drenched everything with water. And this man, unknown to any of us, was upstairs yelling, "Help!" to the firefighters. He had set the fire, but remained in the building. I was answering the business phone at home, and it began to ring incessantly because, you see, we had 8 people either dressed for services and on the floor or waiting to do so. Families were frantic when news about the fire began to spread. One of the families was even a relative. The fire was so hot and so intense on the first floor that the organ keys curled upward like that. But one book in the Bible, in the chapel, one book out of all the song books and music in the organ bench and everything else, one book remained. And you know what it was? It was the Word of God. The Bible was still untouched. All 8 bodies were also in perfect condition as God had his angels keeping them from harm. Trust God. Some of them needed new caskets or clothes due to smoke and its effects. And my family was there doing and redoing layouts for about 40 hours straight in order that everyone's service could be as scheduled and on time. I stayed on the phone reassuring families that it would be okay, telling them what we needed, if we needed, to replace clothes, and praying to the King of Glory all night long. And glory to him it was. But enough about me and mine. What about us? Today's theme is Queens of Wisdom. Who is a queen? A bride of a king? A female reigning monarch? A woman with authority over her own domain? That's the one. You cannot have God-given authority unless you use it correctly. You must be one whom your constituents can follow. That means if your domain is your home, or your classroom, or your courtroom, you must provide good examples for all who watch you and see you as the leader. If you have children, you must show them that God comes first in your life if you want them to have God first in their lives. Choose your partner wisely, and be sure your contribution to God's church supersedes what you play through the life. And what wraps your hips cannot be tighter than what wraps your head. You cannot give the devil an inch in which to maneuver, manipulate, or manage you, or anyone trusted to you as your domain. All of us will cross the water at different times, as the gospel said. We know not the hour. And when we arrive, we will have to answer for ourselves and ourselves alone. The person you were worrying about, the one who had negative things to say about you or your ways, the one who said you thought you were too good for him because your virtue was more important to you than his philosophy. The wannabe queen who said you thought you were cute because you would not let your neckline dip down to your hemline, all have to answer for themselves. You only have to answer for yourself. Queens, you know what you have to do. Seek wisdom, stay ready, being prepared as the wise bridesmaids were in today's gospel. They did not let the foolish ones influence them, nor persuade them to leave the extra oil at home because it might be too heavy to carry. You do the same. Don't let the foolish influence you. And because we each want to have wings one day, kings must do likewise. Kings who want to maintain their title as king must be helpmates to their queens. Kings have to cross the river as well. The water is just as deep where you cross as it is when we cross. I want to be a queen with wisdom one day myself. We must work on it by reading inspirational reflections daily. Read the scriptures daily. Pray daily. And keep good friends who lift us when we are down. Do not stomp us to the ground. I cherish membership in this community. This is one of the most vibrant parishes in the diocese, and I gratefully accept all of the goodness and love you pour out on us. I do not swim, so if anybody needs a safe way to cross the river, it is I have trials, I have tribulations, I have mishaps and moves. My hip was so stubborn over the weekend that I was doing a limp hop step. But I kept doing because I was on a mission. Things can go wrong. You can let yourself get into what's called situational depression. It is not medical depression. Pills will not fix it. You have to fix the situation. You have to be a good queen, a wise queen, a determined queen, a praying queen. So that not only do you chase Satan out of the situation, saving those entrusted to your care, as well as yourself, but you build strength, character, endurance. Don't let evil or temptation rest on your back. You have to be like the goat who fell into a dry well. The farmers who owned the land where the well was located tried lowering straps of leather and lengths of rope and other things they thought would raise him up. Nothing worked. They decided to bury him alive. Every time they threw dirt into the well, the goat shook it off. Eventually, the goat shook off, formed a mound in the well. The mound got firm enough for the goat to run up and down and keep running